Hi, and welcome to my final project for critical issues in world history. There we go. So we were asked to choose 4 out of the 8 topics that we discussed during the semester, and I kind of chose 5-ish. You'll see in my thesis statement. So my thesis statement is the advancements in technology, science, and medicine. That also extends to the philosophical progress that we made repeatedly impacted the interpretation and practice of religion and moral values. In turn, power and politics were often influenced, and as a side, for many years the interests of science and the church have been at social odds, and one could assert that it is actually a power struggle between the two. To expound upon this, we're going to go into 3 different topics: Nicholas Copernicus, John Locke, and the apothecaries. So, starting off with Nicholas Copernicus and his heliocentric view of the universe. While he wasn't the one that came up with this, he heavily promoted it, and the church had to address him. This was a very sketchy topic because Nicholas Copernicus had evidence for what he was observing, but the church said that this went against the Bible. So this raised the question, was the Bible wrong, or was what the church interpreting the Bible to say wrong? Or what could people even believe in? And how is the Bible being interpreted, and what did that reflect on the church? So this advancement definitely raised some questions in people's minds. We have a beautiful diagram of the geocentric theory versus the heliocentric theory. Moving on with John Locke and philosophical science. This was during the Age of Enlightenment, where many people were turning towards reason to justify or explain life around them. And obviously the church had a lot to lose from this. There's a loss of membership and a loss of belief in God in the church, but also as more people began to diminish the authority that the church had on their personal lives, it also raised questions of how much are they going to allow them to penetrate society and politics, and what does that look like in interpreting government. And for example 3, we have the apothecaries, which was the precedents to modern day pharmacies or even just stores. And the apothecaries were often tied to the church, and people were told that it was also a result of God's divine power and the concoctions or medicine that they were given as an answer to prayer for healing or the medicine working. There was a quote in our reading that said, "There was little that could not be used for medicine, thanks to belief and provision for human need." So many times people also believed that, yes, I'm getting this from the apothecary, but God is also blessing and healing me. So as medicine advanced and inoculations were brought up and people found out about hygiene and cleanliness, the church's authority in even apothecaries and medicine began to diminish, and their grasp on the political world and sphere just began to lose its impact as well. And we have a beautiful picture of an apothecary. I think this was also in our readings. But in conclusion, science, religion, and morality were all hindered as a result of the dissonance among them. They were often at odds with each other, and one thing that the church would say, science would later on not necessarily disprove, but say there is an actual reason for this, and it's not all revelation from the Lord. And this begs the question, what is the appropriate way to approach progress? The church and science both have bounds that they influence, and people can decide whether or not to let those bounds influence the government or their personal lives, or the societies that they live in. So what is the appropriate way to look at both or just one and decide which one is going to influence the way that we run society the most? And just a deeper reflection question is, what is the relationship between science and religion and politics now? And is it any different from the past? This is a more personal question and observations from what one would observe and decide. But yeah, that is my presentation for the final.